we're doing practice 1B, page 22, problems 9 through 11. These are problems having to do with prime factorization. Number 9, part A. Express the following using exponents. So it says 5 times 5 times 11 times 11 times 11. So 5 times 5 is 5 squared. And then 11 times 11 is 11 to the third power by the definition of an exponent. This is the base, 11, this is the power. So 11 to the third means 11 times 11 times 11. So we have 5 squared times 11 to the third for A. For part B, it says 2 times 2 times 13 times 13 times 31 times 2. So let's combine all of our 2's. It looks like we have 3 of them. 2 to the third power times, then we have 2 13s. So 13 times 13 is 13 squared. And then we just have the 131. So 2 to the third times 13 squared times 31. C, we have 5 times 3 times 19 times 3 times 19 times 5 times 2. Start with our lowest number, which is 2. We only have one of them. So 2 times, go to our next highest, which is 3. We have 2 3's, so that would be 3 squared. 3 times 3 is 3 squared. Then we have 2 5's, so times 5 squared. And then we have 2 19's. 19 times 19 would be 19 squared. So there's our answer. Moving on to number 10. Find the value of the following. So 10 part A, 2 to the fourth times 3 to the third. So first let's do 2 to the fourth. So 2 to the fourth means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. You're taking the base 2 and you're multiplying by itself 4 times. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Easy way to evaluate this is say 2 times 2 is 4. This 2 times 2 is 4. Multiply that together, 16. So 2 to the fourth is 16. Now we evaluate 3 to the third. So that means 3 times 3 times 3. Sometimes a little dot like this means multiply. So 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 would be 9. And then that times 3 is 27. So 3 to the third is 27. Now they want us to evaluate this. So we need to take 16 times 27. Let's go back to my other color. So I'm just going to do 27 times 16. 42. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 4 is 16. And when I multiply it all out, I get 432 for that one. And let's move on to 10b. 10b, we have 2 squared times 7 squared. 2 squared is just 2 times 2, which is 4. 7 squared is just 7 times 7, which is 49. So we have 4 times 49. Now we can just multiply that out. We get 196 for that one. And part C. 11 squared times 3 squared. Okay, 11 squared is 11 times 11, which is 121. If you don't know that math fact, you can multiply it out. 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9. So we end up with 121 times 9. And we can multiply that out and we get 1,089 for that one. Moving on to number 11. All right, number 11. tells us to find each as a product of prime factors using exponents. So we're doing a prime factorization and we're using exponents. So the first one is 28. Now, first step is just to break it down into two factors. You could start with 7 and 4. 7 times 4 is 28. You could do 14 and 2. Whatever you start with, ultimately you'll get the same answer at the end. So I'm going to start with 7 times 4 is 28. Now, 7 is prime, so I can leave that, but 4 can be broken down into two prime factors, 2 times 2. So now I have these three prime factors. So first I can write them in order of least to greatest, 2 times 2 times 7, and now I can combine my like factors using exponents. 2 times 2 is really 2 squared times 7. So that's our answer on that one. 54. Now I know that 9 times 6 is 54, so I'm going to use that, but you might choose two other factors. That's fine. Now I can break these down. 9, that's the product of 3 times 3, and 6 is 2 times 3. Now I have all prime numbers, so I can write my prime factorization. I'll write them first in order of least to greatest. Now I can combine my like factors. 3 times 3 times 3 is 3 squared. So 3 cubed. 2 times 3 cubed. 88. Well, I know I could start with 44 times 2 or 11 times 8. I'm going to try 11 times 8. I know 11 is a prime number, so I'm going to leave that. And 8 I know is 4 times 2, but then the 4 can be broken down into 2 times 2. So I end up with these 4 prime factors. Write them in order, 2 times 2 times 2 times 11. So I took these 3 and then 11. Now I can combine my like factors. 2 times 2 times 2 is 2 to the third, and then I have times 11. 108. Well, I know that I can take half of that for sure, so let's just go that route. 2 times 54 is 108. Now I can break down 54. I know 6 times 9. So now I'm going to end up with this one. So I'm going to basically follow the same thing I did over there. And I'm going to get these factors. This times this times this times this times this. Put them in order. 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 3. Combine my like factors, 2 squared times 3 to the third. So really you can see that 108 was just 54 times 2. So if you take this prime factorization and multiply it by another 2, you get this prime factorization, because 108 is twice of 54. So right here is that extra 2. Instead of 2 times 3 to the third, we end up with 2 squared times 3 to the third. Okay, now we're going to move on to practice C. Okay, we are now on practice 1C, page 27 of the textbook. In number 1, we are multiplying. So 1A says to multiply 238 times 10. So when we multiply a number by 10, we just add a 0 onto the end of it. So we take that 238 and we add a 0. 2,380. B, we have 700 times 100. Now when we're multiplying by 100, we add 2 zeros onto the end. So we take this 700 and then we add 2 zeros. So I'm taking this number and then adding 2 zeros. 70,000. Part C, 37 times 1,000. Now I'm multiplying by 1,000. That has 3 zeros, so we add 3 zeros onto our number, and we get 37,000. Moving on to part D, we have 10 times 400. Okay, so here we could now use our technique where we look at our leading digits. 1 times 4 is 4. And then we add our trailing zeros, which are 3. 1, 2, 3. Get 4,000. E 100 times 280. I'm going to show you how I can think about this in two ways. I could just take this 280 and know that I'm multiplying by 100, so I add 2 zeros and I get 28,000. Or I can think about it where I'm multiplying leading digits. 1 times 28 is 28, and add trailing zeros. I have 1, 2, 3 trailing zeros, 28,000. Same answer, I'm just thinking about it a little bit differently. Letter F, 1,000 times 520. Again, I can think of this as, let's start with the number 520, add 3 zeros because I'm multiplying by 1,000, and I get 520,000. Or I can think about my leading digits and trailing zeros. 1 times 52 is 52, and add my 1, 2, 3, 4 trailing zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, and get 520,000. Going on to number 2. Multiply 56 by 7. So first we'll do that. 6 times 7 is 42. 5 times 7 is 35, plus 4 is 39. 392. Now, using that, let's answer A, B, and C. Then find the value of 56 times 70. So if 56 times 7 is 392, then 56 times 70 would be 56 times 7 times 10, because 70 is 7 times 10. We already said that 56 times 7 is 392. So now we just need to multiply our answer by 10, which means we add a 0. So 3,920 would be the answer. And B, now we want 56 times 700. So again, we just start with that 56 times 7, which are our leading digits, and we know that's 392. And now we just add these 2 zeros, or our trailing zeros, and we get 39,200. And then the last one is 56 times 7,000. And now you're probably realizing that we just need to add one more 0, because we start with the 56 times 7, which is 392, and then we add those 3 zeros this time, and we get 392,000. Okay, and number 3, one more. Multiply 75 by 9. So we start with 75 times 9. 5 times 9 is 45. 7 times 9 is 63. Plus 4 is 67. So now we can answer A, B, and C. The first one says, what is 75 times 90? So again, we already know what 75 times 9 is. That's 675. So 75 times 9D would just be that number times 10, and you add that 0. Part B, 75 times 900. I think you see the pattern. It's just going to be this with another 0 now. It's going to be 67,500. If you need to expand it out to understand it, you can think of this 75 times 900 as 75 times 9 times 100, because 900 is 9 times 100. 75 times 9 is that, 675. Now multiply that by 100. So take your 675, add 2 zeros, and you get 67,500. And our last one here, C, 675 times 9,000. So again, that's just 75 times 9 times 1,000. This here is 675. Multiply that by 1,000, so you're going to add 3 zeros to it. 675,000. Now we just have one more problem to do, and that's number 7. Number 7 is a story problem. There are 426 people attending a conference. I'm just going to write 426 people. The cost per person for a catered lunch is $38.75. So $38.75 per lunch. So each person has a lunch that's $38.75. Must be a nice lunch. Then it says, give an estimate of the cost to serve all the people at the conference. So estimate, that means we're going to round these numbers just to get an estimate. So we could say that 426 people is about 400 people. And we could say the cost of the lunch is about $40. $38.75 is pretty close to 40. So now I have 400 people, and each person has a $40 lunch. So if I multiply that, I would get the total cost of all the lunches. So here I can just take my leading digits. 4 times 4 is 16. Add my trailing zeros. I have 1, 2, 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. I get $16,000 to pay for lunch for all these people. Pretty expensive lunch. So that's your review assignment. For your quiz, make sure you can do prime factorizations, make sure you understand exponents, and make sure you can do the multiplying by tens, hundreds, and thousands, and multiples of tens, hundreds, thousands, kind of like those first few numbers on page 27 of the textbook.
Y-E-A-H. Yay for math!